Hello, class. I just got this assignment 13 submission about 45 minutes ago before I started recording this. So I wanted to provide feedback for it in case this student wanted to use this as a springboard for their final Photoshop assignment, assignment 15, which is due next week on, what did I say? I want to say the 29th. We'd have to go into that assignment to be sure before I give you bad information. Assignment 15 due on the 29th. But don't forget, on Monday, the final is opening up on the 27th, and you will need to have this done in order to do that, so don't put it off. All right, so that said, let's take a look. I already went through this. All the specs are correct on the assignment, so I'm not going to bore you with any of those details. The sizes, the number, all of it's spot on. Good job. You even circled everything in red like I asked. Fantastic. So what we're going to talk about is just some design ideas, and I wanted to say the same thing I've said in all these videos. I'm just kind of giving my opinion and trying to provide my skill set to you so that you can make any adjustments to make it more visually pleasing, easier to, so to speak, read, make it stand out more, that sort of thing. That's not to say that I'm some kind of mystical being giving some sort of immutable word. This is just my thoughts on the matter. If you decide to do something else entirely, that's fine. Keep in mind, though, that if I start saying things like, man, these colors are hurting my eyes, or, ooh, really can't read that, probably fix that, because I probably will look at the final. If you stick to this and you go, yeah, no, I'll leave the colors he complained about, I will probably still be complaining about those when I come back to it later. That said, though, I'd really rather that you do something that you enjoy so that you can put your best work forward on it. I'm hoping that the assignment 15 provides you with a portfolio quality piece so that you can put that in your portfolio and show it to people. Keep in mind, too, that there's a 230 point extra credit assignment available for creating an online portfolio. Hopefully those of you who need some extra points because you haven't turned in a bunch of assignments or you didn't do very well on 4 or 5 assignments are looking at that and working on it. Hopefully that's going well for you. All right, I think that's enough bird walking. Let's go ahead and actually get into this. So these thumbnails are great. This is the sort of stuff I'm looking for. I like that you did some little grays in there. This is for something, I took a peek at it, Respect the River, which I think is a music thing, or maybe just a get together or a group together thing. I think that you picked some good ones, and looking over it, I'm glad that you didn't leave stuff square in the middle. That's something that I always warn people about when they're doing designs. Don't place something right in the middle of the page if you don't intend to. And what do I mean by that? The middle of the page, it's very natural for our human eyes to start breaking stuff down into smaller parts. And one of the things that we'll do is start focusing in the center if there's really anything there to look at. It's where our eyes are. It's where we're going to see the best. That's it. We're focusing in on that. That said, it's a very strong place to put something. So in other words, if you put something there, the viewer is going to kind of be strong-armed into looking at it because we'll naturally want to, and now all of a sudden something's there. So if you put something there without really intending to, you just kind of did it because you needed to put it somewhere. Now, if you want to balance it out and have other elements in your design that do not, that are important to your work, you're going to be struggling to get the viewer to look at that, because now they're focusing in on the center. So you have to pull out more and more tricks from your bag of design processes and really focus in on those just to pull away from the center. And if you just don't put something in the center in the first place, you don't have to fight the center. That said, there are times that you definitely want to put something in the center. It is a very potent area of a canvas. And so you may want to, but please make that decision consciously and not just because you had to put it somewhere. This again comes down to the rule of thirds. Remember, if we go into the crop tool, we have the ability to look at the different types of crops, including the rule of thirds. if it's going to display for us, that would be great. Here we go. So the rule of thirds, basically the idea of the rule, and these are just some design tips. We'll move on to the rest of this in a second. Rule of thirds means if you break stuff up into about thirds, you have a couple of areas, 4 to be precise, that if you put stuff in it and not in the middle, then they'll be fairly well balanced out. That's great. You can also have things cut up into about thirds, either horizontally or vertically, and people will respond well to that. So that's one way you could do it. And this is actually, the crop tool is pretty cool because it's got stuff like the golden ratio, which is another great way of putting things in. I'm sure I've talked about that before. If I haven't, golden spiral is one I've definitely talked about, where the eye will focus in on a specific point. And what's cool is you can build this with a Fibonacci sequence. I know I've talked about this, right? If I haven't, just shoot me an email and I'll post a little video on it. Okay, so I think that a lot of these designs are very interesting. I kind of like the face going shush. I think that's pretty cool, but I really like the sun. I also like this guitar. I think the guitar fits a little bit better than this kind of chair going on. Yeah, I think you have a good sense of design looking at these thumbnails. You break up your canvas, your little mini thumbnail canvases, into pleasing ratios. You break them up into pleasing shapes. I think you're going to have a little bit of an easier time than some people would on this. So let's take a look at what you've selected and see what you're doing. So you've got respect the river, and again, watch out. You've got this in the center on the horizontal plane, but not. Wait, do I have that right? Yeah, but not vertically. You've got the rule of thirds vertically. See the eyes? If you moved this over a little bit more, maybe to the right, then this would be a lot stronger as a design. But I know you didn't pick this one, so we won't focus too much on it. We have respect the river with this wizard photo. That's a cool looking wizard dude. I have no idea where you found this wizard. That's awesome. All right, this is a potentially this could be a very strong design. You may want to. I posted a ton of videos on design trends from over the last few years. In the last few not discussions, I'm sorry, pages, video pages for the last few assignments. Check those out. I think that this has a lot of potential, but you probably want to decide what type of design you're aiming for and walk towards that and see where you're going. And then you've got this guy playing with some smoky fire. This is also actually a very good design. I'd probably slide him a little bit further to the left to break this up a little bit more. And we have this one clearly spending a lot of time at this point thinking over things. I think you broke this up quite nicely. This is good work on that. I'd probably lower her a little bit more. And I like the Stonehenge. I'd probably move it maybe to the right. Actually, if you lower her, yeah, I'd move it a little bit to the right in order to have some space for everything. All right, but without further ado, let's get to the meat of the matter and the composition. So here we have your comp. Now at this point, though, I'd like you to start going into what sort of design you're going to use for it. So there are some, but first let's focus on the text. It's hard to read. So this looks great. Respect on the river looks good. I can read all this. This gets really hard to see. I would actually come in and I don't know. I thought that was a U, but I think it's an I and an FF. I'd increase the kerning here so that they're not so close and touching. That way that you can actually read it. These have the problem from a distance. Let me show you. Where it hits the light, it's really hard to see. So that can be fixed just by increasing the drop shadow just a little bit. A little bit darker would work on that. No reason to cover up the wizard elbow. You could just add some more spacing between each of these words, and that would drop all this down so that run for your money, stray cats and dogs, and the hammer and nails would fit right in this nook right here. You may have to drop this down just a touch in order to make that happen, but that could be good because the little wizard statue wouldn't be going on. So wouldn't be the little wizard statue's hands and fingers wouldn't be touching featuring. So that would give the wizard some more space. I think that would clarify things. Again, maybe a different font here if you're not going to increase the kerning. This is just impossible to read. That's not gonna cut any. That's not gonna cut it. All right. That said, it might be good to add in some more imagery in here. You have a great start. I would recommend actually coming in here and using your cloning tools and processes. We had a whole bunch of videos about that to patch up this and remove the plant in front of the wizard statue so that he's like all wizard all the way down. Once you've done that, you could do stuff like break apart this tree here so that you have the tree on the right, these trees on the right, and then you could eliminate all the stuff here and to the left. And then you could just put a color, for example, or any of those things. So for this, I think you're getting there. Maybe hit this with the curves too. Hello, curves. Where are you? Why can I never find curves? Yeah, totally hit this with the curves. You can increase this a lot. Now I'm on a new, I've said this in every video, I think. I'm on a new mouse. This is a rollerball mouse. My hands were cramping up, and so I switched over to this, and it's working really well. I am working with my non-dominant hand while I use it. Just I don't know why. Just make it harder for myself at this point. But yeah, so I might do some clumsy bits here, but I think that overall I'm starting to get the hang of it. All right. So yeah, you can totally bring this in. Just even a slight S-curve can start making the wizard pop a bit more. Be careful though, I've already overdone it on the lights. Don't want to burn that out. So what I'm going to suggest for you, normally I go on for another 10 minutes. Go back to the pages, look over the different design trends, decide what you want this to look like, how you want this poster, what style you want this poster to be, because you've almost got the layout down. Now it's time to decide, do you want like a 70s aesthetic? You're kind of heading that way. Do you want this to look like a photo negative reproduction? And if you're one of my students that purchased the show posters book, there's a whole books on types of posters. For example, oxidized degradation. Couldn't say that for some reason. Oxidized degradation, halftone realism, which essentially would be the halftoning technique we did for an earlier assignment, but instead of having the maximum pixels set to 6, you'd set it to like 3 or something. Illustrated ornamentation might look really good in there, but you'd have to spend a lot of time breaking that down. You could do iconic simplification. Let's just Google a few of these so I can actually show you some examples. And you can just watch some of the YouTube videos that I've posted to kind of get started on that. Or let's pop this open. Nice. And we'll just grab what I mean by illustrated ornamentation. Okay. I hope I have my safe search on. I do. Let's take a look at these. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. This would actually work pretty well with the aesthetic that you're... Oh, Pinterest. You're the worst in the world, Pinterest. Go away forever, Pinterest. All right, anyway. You can see that it reduces... One approach is to reduce it down to simple shapes. Another approach is to reduce it down to lines. Another approach is to have... Are you on Pinterest or can I click on you? Good. Where are you? You're hiding from me. Oh, why would you do that? Don't be that way. Let's just right click and view image. Do this. Another approach is to come in here and do large shapes and lines. So that might lend itself nicely to your wizard guy if you start converting these to lines and shapes. If you don't want to do that by hand, just check out YouTube and do how do I Photoshop? How do I make a photo look like an illustration? Start Googling that stuff. Start doing some research into that. Now, admittedly, it is the 26th and it is due in 3 days, but hey, it could still work. You never know. On the other hand, maybe you've been working on it for a while. I'm not really sure. Let's look at an iconic simplification poster example. And here are some iconic simplifications. I think this one is probably our... whoa, I mistyped that. Simplification. This one is probably our most famous one that we have. This was all done Photoshop. You know, it's completely doable, and if you want to Google how to do that, you can. It's probably a little overdone at this point, but essentially for iconic simplification. Now that doesn't mean it has to be simple. And for example, that's kind of iconic simplification. There we go. This Interstellar poster, this is some good stuff. So it's a minimalist style. You stick with a handful of colors. You try to express it. Look how good this poster is. Let's just take a look at this real fast. Yeah, go ahead and load as slow as possible. Well, while this does its thing, here we go. So this is what I'm talking about. Right now you're in sort of a photo style thing, but you could push it to be more design based. Kind of getting the idea? Now that said, you've got the, look at those. Aren't those great? Now with that said, nice. You've already got the starting point of the wizard. And like I said, you need to do a little bit of cleanup. This is nice. So Misery was the movie where a woman captured her favorite author and was forcing him to write her preferred version of a book. And she was going to bust him again with Keep Him Forever using Sledgehammer. Yeah. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, going through all this. There are a lot of ways you can approach this. You've got a great start for your poster. It's time to start looking up. That was weird. It's time to start looking up what you want to do. And you could just do things where you keep part of the image and you mask things out. Remember, you've got this great triangle shape going on in here. Again, you really want to cradle this over. While I'm at it, you probably want to push this a little to the left so it's not flush with the Respect on the River. You want a little bit closer on this side. All right, so that's kind of what I'm getting at. You want to start looking up types of posters and decide what you want to do for it, because basically your layout's about done. Oh, check this one out. Low brow handbill. These were cool because they had to be reproduced. Yeah, check these out. There are a million ways to do these things. Sky's the limit. Have some fun with it. You could just throw in some large colorful shapes. Like I was saying, you could cut out just the wizard, for example. It doesn't require too much more adjustments to him. Then once you have the wizard, you can kind of use them as a cutout and start putting him places. A couple of effects and you can build pretty much anything you want. Yeah. Okay, so basically I'm saying you've got a great foundation. Not too much more to work on at the foundation level. Keep in mind you don't want the white right behind something super light. It gets hard to read at a distance. Go ahead and watch the video I have on why flags are the worst designed thing you'll ever see by Roman Mars. I think I've got that posted twice now. Check that one out. It'll talk about at a distance, how do you read things quickly. Go ahead and look up some posters that you like. Do some research into the style that was used to create it. Look up how you would make it in Photoshop. And voila, I think you're set. You're really close. So far, excellent work. I'm going to go ahead and upload this video ASAP so you can get this feedback. All right, see you all Monday. Don't forget, the 27th is the last day for all late work and any extra credit that doesn't have a due date after the 27th. So if it doesn't have a due date at all, it's due the 27th. After the 27th, I'm not accepting any more late work. I'm not accepting any of that. It's due. I need it because otherwise I cannot grade it. So turn it in. All right, that's it. Have a great weekend.